December 27th, 2013 was 2 days after Christmas, the day after I'd taken my endowments out, and 1 day before I was to be married. Before the wedding, we had lots of last-minute preparations to take care of, but before we began decorating the cultural hall and getting our nails done, the guys in the family, my family and my husband's family, went to the stake center to play basketball. Our families grew up together and both played basketball, and so this was a fun thing to do. They played the Lees versus the Claytons. Partway through the basketball game, my dad decided to sit down and take a break for a little while. He's 54 years old. He's a pretty healthy guy, but once in a while he'd get lightheaded. So he sat down, and a few seconds later, my sister-in-law noticed that he had fainted. He had fallen off of his chair. He had hit his head on the ground. So she rushed over and noticed that not only had he fainted, but he was unconscious. Everyone quickly gathered around. My brother-in-law started CPR. My brother-in-laws gave him a priesthood blessing. My sister called 911, and my husband ran around the stake center looking for a defibrillator. After the ambulance arrived, they whisked him off to the hospital where they assessed and realized that he had had a heart attack. A pretty massive heart attack, as he was still unconscious and unresponsive. They rushed him into surgery where they placed multiple stents in his heart in order to help the blood flow and to hopefully resolve things as best they could. He continued to be unconscious, and things weren't looking very good. After a lot of thought and deliberation, my husband and I decided to move forward with the wedding, which was really hard for us, but we felt that that was the right thing to do. We knew that he wouldn't be awake for a while and didn't know when or if he would be. Everyone, for this reason, needs to get their heart checked. You need to be aware of the risks that you're at, the likelihood of you having a heart attack or your loved ones having a heart attack. This is a very scary thing, and it's something that everyone needs to do. The Heart Foundation helps us recognize the severity of heart disease. It is the #1 killer in cause of death in the United States. It causes more deaths than all of cancers combined. And this put it into great perspective for me to recognize how huge this disease is. And I feel like there's so much awareness about cancers, but a lot less about heart disease. One heart attack occurs in the United States every 34 seconds. So the time that I've been speaking, almost 6 heart attacks have occurred, and that's huge. You have to think about the wife of the husband, the wife of the man who just had a heart attack, who is concerned for the life of her husband, and you can't help but wonder what would have changed if he would have gotten his heart checked, if he would have recognized the risk that he was at. Mayo Clinic teaches us that those risks include genes, age, diet and exercise, and just your overall health. Both high cholesterol and high blood pressure are 2 things that are commonly known as factors of heart disease and heart attacks. For my dad, it was definitely his genetics. His father had 2 heart attacks in his lifetime and died very young. And for my dad, he had a pretty healthy diet, and he exercised very regularly. He would often take me to seminary and then go to the gym, and that same night we would often go together. So there were some days of the week where he was exercising 2 times. And he was only 54, so he was pretty young, was in decent health, was doing all that he could to decrease his risk factors. So educate yourself, get your heart checked so that you know what your risk factors are, and so that you know what you need to do moving forward to help prevent this from happening. If you are at risk, improving your diet and improving your exercise are great ways to control your risk. Not only exercising, but especially cardiovascular, where you're strengthening your heart, are great things to do. So after being unconscious for 5 days, 5 scary days, 5 stressful days, 5 days where we didn't know whether our father father would live or not. He woke up. It was a miracle. The doctor said it was a miracle. Nobody really thought that this would turn out this way. In those 5 days, he was hooked up to 1,000,000 tubes. He had tubes breathing for him. He was hooked up to machines that rotated his body so that his circulation continued. Machines that cooled his body to preserve his organs. It was intense. It was scary. And it really truly was a miracle that he lived. Unfortunately, this isn't the case for a lot of people. In 2011, 787,000 people died from heart attacks. Now that's huge. And like I said before, you can't help but think what that number would be if those people had educated themselves, if they had gotten their heart checked. So now's the time to get your heart checked. It's not later. It's easy to think, I'm young, I'm only 20, it doesn't matter, I'm healthy. But that's not the case. 20-year-olds have heart attacks, 30-year-olds have heart attacks, everybody can have heart attacks. And if you know now, that's 20 plus years that you can be ahead of the curve. You can be exercising, you can be improving your diet so that you can reduce your risks of heart attack. The sooner you know that you are at risk, that you have high cholesterol or high blood pressure, the better off you're going to be. And I'm sure that you want to be there for your family. You don't want to miss your daughter's wedding like my dad missed mine. That is something that I will forever be bummed about. And you don't want to miss the birth of your grandchildren or the birth of a child. So it's so important to get your heart checked. Get your family, encourage them to do it as well. Save your life and save the lives of your family.